The big news of the week came on the media rights front as WWE and ESPN reached a deal for $1.6 billion over 5 years, which works out to $325 million per year to air WWE's premium live events as part of ESPN's new streaming service that is launching on August 21st, which is called, how's this for an original name? ESPN. Now, this only affects the U.S. market. All of the PLEs will continue to air internationally on Netflix. Even though this deal wouldn't kick in until next year, they have not announced when it will kick off, but the Peacock deal, I believe, is through March, which means this would start with WrestleMania. That $325 million a year would mean they nearly doubled what they are currently getting from Peacock. NBC Universal had the right of first refusal, so they had the chance to match ESPN's offer. They obviously did not. ESPN will also simulcast what they are calling select events on ESPN's linear networks. By the way, that could very well include ABC, which is also owned by Disney. They could brand these events under the ESPN on ABC banner and actually air something like WrestleMania live on ABC, which is a broadcast network. And that's never been done before. I'm not saying they will, but it's at least possible now. It's at least plausible that they would show a portion of it. But if you would have told 1999 me that one day WrestleMania would air on ESPN, like that would have been unbelievable. If you would have told me that pro wrestling would even be covered on ESPN or on SportsCenter, that would have been unbelievable. But that's been going on for a few years now. Imagine what that integration is going to look like now. Like live SportsCenter coverage from the actual venues for each event. They're going to treat it like a real sport. ESPN may also be streaming the pre and post shows for all the PLEs, although WWE is going to continue to produce them themselves. So they're not outsourcing that to ESPN. WWE President Nick Khan has clarified that while the number of shows can always grow, the current deal is for 10 PLEs held over 12 nights, since WrestleMania and SummerSlam next year are going to remain 2 nights. Because SummerSlam next year was already scheduled for 2 nights. They're going to be in Minneapolis, so I mean, that's not a surprise. And I mean, they just sold 113,000 tickets for 2 nights of SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium, right? So those 2 nights are here to stay. But just because those are the terms of the current deal does not mean that they can't expand the Royal Rumble and other events to 2 nights at some point. I fully expect that to happen. I mean, I would be shocked if it didn't happen as early as 2027. Now, this new ESPN streaming service that launches later this month, again on the 21st, it will be priced at $29.99 per month or $300 annually. But the key is that if you are someone who already has ESPN as part of your cable package, your satellite package, you would not need to pay extra for the streaming service. You would already have access to it. You'll just need to go through, there's going to be an authentication process. So you'll have to just log in, whatever your cable or satellite login is, you put that information in, and then you'll be able to access the service for free. Existing ESPN Plus subscribers will automatically be enrolled as subscribers to the new service. It's basically being absorbed into this new service. And after a period of time, ESPN Plus will be completely phased out in favor of this new one. Now, Alex Sherman of CNBC explained how everything is going to work. This is how he explains it. Anyone who currently pays for a bundle of TV networks that includes ESPN will eventually get ESPN's direct-to-consumer service for no extra charge. You'll download or click on the ESPN app on your mobile device or your smart TV. There will be a login screen that asks you if you are a pay TV subscriber. You will then be able to authenticate that you do, in fact, pay for traditional pay TV and get ESPN in your bundle. Once you authenticate, you'll get access to the new service with everything in it. That means that starting in 2026, you'll get access to all the WWE premium live events, as well as everything else that is on ESPN. Monday Night Football, NBA games, etc. You won't get NFL Network yet. That deal needs to close first. But once it does, the NFL Network and games that air on it will be integrated into the service as well. The WWE live events will not be available on ESPN Plus. You'll need to upgrade to the $29.99 ESPN product. But again, just to be clear, if you're a cable subscriber that gets ESPN, You will get it for no extra charge. And ESPN will not charge an additional fee for the live events. So there's no return to pay-per-view here, like ESPN has done with some UFC events on ESPN Plus. And that's an important point because some people were worried that you would have to pay a fee on top of a fee. So you pay for the ESPN service and then pay an actual pay-per-view fee on top of that, like you do for some of the UFC events, but that is not the case here. Now, there's been a lot of confusion about this. I was confused. The day that this news broke, everyone was confused. The rollout has just been very confusing. It has not been great. And people wondering, how is this all going to work? So a few important points to make. For one, not everyone who gets ESPN will necessarily have access to this for free. Now, take me, for example. I'm on YouTube TV, and that is one of the services that they have not reached a deal with yet. YouTube TV does not even offer SNY anymore, okay? Sportsnet New York. They used to, but they don't anymore. SNY is the network that airs New York Mets games. We have not had access to SNY for the last 2 years, which is ridiculous. Yeah, my brother has a subscription through the MLB Network app, so we can watch the games through there. But they took SNY away from us and MLB Network as well 2 years ago, and they still have not reached any kind of agreement to bring them back. It's been 2 years. But the subscription price sure keeps going up. We get less content than we did before, yet we pay more. I do like the service, and I really don't have any interest in ever going back to cable. I would just as soon toss my television out the window than ever go back to cable. I cut the cord 5 years ago, and I have never looked back. Now, if you have Spectrum, if you have DirecTV, Fubo TV, Hulu Live TV, or Verizon Fios, you're good to go. You'll have access, but if you have Xfinity, which is Comcast, YouTube TV, Dish TV, or Sling, you will not have free access to the service. You will have to pay the $29.99 a month. For now. That could change before WWE even migrates over there. They seem to believe that it will, that this will all be taken care of in time. They'll have everybody on board by the end of the year. It'll all be worked out. And if it is, then you'll be able to get access to the service for free like everybody else. But they have to come to terms with those platforms first. Now, another important point is that ESPN is going to be simulcasting select events on their linear networks like ESPN. And it's a little confusing because apparently that's what they're also calling their new streaming service, ESPN. But again, I'm talking about the actual ESPN network. And so if the PLEs are airing on there also, some of them, does this mean that we are going to start getting commercials mid-match during PLEs? We're already getting tons of ads on the PLEs anyway. It's fucking 25 minutes in between matches. But the idea of hearing Michael Cole in the middle of the WrestleMania main event telling us Cody Rhodes is down on the outside, WrestleMania Sunday rolls on, and then cutting to a Snickers commercial, like picture in picture, is absolutely nauseating to even think of, right? Just the thought of it. And for everyone else streaming it, they could just fade out and fade right back into the match while the ad plays for all the other people who are watching. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but again, there's still a lot of questions that have to be answered. It's at least plausible that they could start doing that on some of these PLEs. So I don't know if that's what we're in for. Maybe it'll be limited to in-match advertising in other ways that don't, disrupt the actual matches too much. But rest assured, they will find a way to integrate more advertising and more sponsorships into those PLEs. You can set your watch to that. Now, also, we don't yet know if the full PLEs will be simulcast on those linear networks. Mark Shapiro of TKO said that for some events, ESPN may only air the first hour or two, and then you would be forced to switch over to the new service. So honestly, you're better off just streaming them and not even watching them on basic cable, because that sounds like a pain in the ass. Another important point is that this package that ESPN is paying WWE for does not include NXT events or any of the library content. Because I've been getting a lot of tweets and emails about what happens to the library, what happens to the classic content. Even Netflix hasn't had the full Raw episodes in months, which is true. And so there's been a lot of concern about that. If you are a fan of the classic content on Peacock right now, and Peacock doesn't even have, again, the classic Raw episodes anymore, I mean, at least not all of them. If you are a fan of that stuff, they are very likely going to make a deal with another streaming service, completely separate from this one, for that content. I mean, they're going to slice and dice and carve this shit up to squeeze every last penny out of it that they can. Maybe they make a new deal with Peacock for that. Maybe it moves to Netflix. Maybe it moves to another streamer. But that will not be part of this ESPN deal. They're going to have to make a deal soon for the NXT PLEs, right? They can't wait until next year to make that deal. But if the classics are not included, that stuff may be in limbo for a while. And the reality is, like, that content, I hate to say it, but that content doesn't move the needle for them. Because and I don't even need to look at the numbers. I don't have any inside track of what the viewership numbers are for all the classic library content, all the archival content. Like, if it did good numbers, more people would be watching it, and viewership for the classic stuff clearly is not great, or they would be doing a better job of updating it more frequently. The fact that they're not tells you everything you need to know. There's no focus on it. They don't mention it. They don't advertise it. Like, the pace of updates has slowed, if not just completely been halted. I mean, they don't really post anything new as far as like the classic stuff, and it's not like everything is up there. It's just not a priority for them. Now, thankfully, we have the Vault channels on YouTube, which I love. I think the Vault channels, all of them, because they have multiple vaults. The WWE Vault is my personal favorite, but I think the Vault is awesome. They have one for WCW. They have one for NXT, probably very soon for ECW. But it would be nice to have one centralized place with everything archived and know where everything is. And that's why I tweeted this week. I was not even really joking. I mean, it's true. You really don't know what you have until it's gone. And the original WWE Network was fucking awesome because you had, and we didn't have all of the library fully digitized and uploaded at that point, but there was a ton of classic content. It was easy to access. You had access to the pay-per-views. You paid $9.99. You got everything you needed. And they had original content as well. They had the Edge and Christian show. They had, what was that show? Camp WWE. They had some other stuff. And it was a bargain. And it's not even that I necessarily took it for granted. I mean, I remember talking about it on the podcast at the time and talking about what a steal it was for all the content you were getting. And just the search function and the kind of the chapters when you would go to like a pay-per-view, they would have them divided by match, so you can go to the match that you wanted. It was incredible. And then they migrated over to Peacock and it all went to shit. And it's only gotten marginally better. I still hate the search function on Peacock. Now we're talking about not even knowing if we're going to have access to all the classic stuff and where it's going to go. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? And it makes me long for those days of the original WWE Network. They really were, ahead of the curve on that. And I long for those days, man. $9.99 is all you needed to pay. That's it. I mean, they advertised the shit out of that. They had t-shirts. They had t-shirts made with $9.99 on it. One thing they're very good at, they've always been very good, is at marketing. Even that fucking Kane movie that came out, See No Evil, right? May 19th. What year was that? What year did that movie come out? It had to be 2006, right? Somewhere around then. We're talking 20 years. And still, I remember it. People still joke about May 19th every year. So they're very good at that. But I do miss those days. So it would be very nice to have one centralized place where everything is housed. Now on the YouTube channels, they do have playlists on the Vault channels. That does help. But it can still be tough, to find stuff that you may be looking for. So if YouTube ended up being the place for all that content, you know what? I wouldn't mind it. I'm sure they can rake in plenty of ad money on there. I'm sure they are raking in plenty of ad money. They have well over 2 million subscribers already on the WWE Vault channel. I think the WCW one has like 300,000. But again, it's not like they're really advertising them or promoting them. And they never, ever said a word about it on TV. So right now they're airing the big AAA shows on YouTube as well, on their main channel. Would future AAA events be part of any streaming deal that they make? Maybe for NXT? It's possible. Maybe the AAA shows end up on a streaming service. SmackDown is going to remain on USA Network and on Peacock. That deal runs through 2029. So that is unaffected by the ESPN stuff. Alex Sherman also reports that he was told by a source that there was another bidder that bid slightly higher for the WWE PLEs than ESPN did. But ultimately, WWE opted to go with ESPN anyway. And it makes sense when you consider all of the exposure that WWE is going to get on the ESPN networks over these next 5 years. Plus the advertising ESPN is going to be doing for all of those WWE shows during big events like Monday Night Football, right? They're going to be plugging the shit out of WWE. Not unlike the way Warner Brothers Discovery promoted AEW during the NBA playoffs, right? That was huge for them. And this will be even bigger for WWE. I don't know who the other bidder was, but Amazon can't do that, right? They can't provide WWE with what ESPN is going to give them. Netflix can't do that. Hulu can't do that. Hulu isn't even going to be around much longer. That was also in the news this week. Disney is shutting down Hulu next year, and they're going to just integrate it and absorb it into Disney Plus. Brian Alvarez says Peacock made a bid to keep WWE for somewhere in the neighborhood of $275 million a year, although he doesn't know if that was for 5 years or if that would have also included the video library like they currently have. But WWE got $50 million a year more from ESPN for less content. Now they can just sell off the rest to someone else like Peacock if they still want it. So, I mean, it's a lot to digest. It's a lot of moving parts here. And frankly, not all of it, I think, has been completely ironed out yet. If you are WWE, this is a great deal that is going to net them a ton of money. For business, it's great. For the consumer, a lot of it depends on your individual situation and whether you already have ESPN. If you already have ESPN, theoretically, you will be able to see all of the PLEs now for free. And if you are paying for Peacock just for that, if you have no other need for Peacock, if you're not watching The Office or whatever the fuck else they have on Peacock, and you just have it for the WWE shows, you could ditch Peacock and just pay nothing extra. So if you fall into that category, it's actually not a bad deal. I say that without knowing yet where the NXT PLEs and the classic content is going to end up. You'll have to pay for those. But if you're a hardcore sports fan, you're going to have access to a ton of other sports through the ESPN app. Now, if you're not a big sports fan, or if you don't have ESPN right now, and you need to pay the $29.99 a month, then it's not such a great deal. And you have every right not to be happy about it. Not that WWE gives a shit. But if it bothers you, then it's completely understandable. Especially if you're already subscribed to lots of other services. And I'm not just talking video services. We're not just talking about Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. There's audio streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music. Maybe you have a Sirius XM subscription, right? All of that costs money. There are so many streaming services these days. I mean, it's impossible to keep up. And costs are rising. Costs are not going down anytime soon. When was the last time you got a notification from one of your streaming services saying, great news, your subscription fee is going down next month, right? Yeah, that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's going up. It's going to continue to go up, especially as we see more of this type of consolidation. And there are fewer options, prices are going to rise. Look at Peacock. They're increasing their prices again. Peacock Premium is going from $7.99 to $10.99 a month. Premium Plus is going from $13.99 to $16.99, and so on. Their annual packages are also going up. You know, at what point do people tap out? At what point do people have to make a list and say, okay, I'm subscribed to these 6 services and I've got to cut them in half? Which ones stay and which ones go? What's important to me and what's not important to me? I mean, for a content creator like me, That could be a good thing because there may be people who give up on watching the shows altogether and they just tune into shows like this to keep up with what's going on. There's already a lot of people doing that. Nick Khan believes that the WWE audience is loyal and will follow them wherever they go. They will follow them to the ends of the earth and gladly pay the toll at each end. He claims that 96% of the USA Network audience moved with them to Sci-Fi when they were shifted there on short notice during the Olympics. He claims every WWE Network subscriber, every single one, shifted over to Peacock. So he is confident that all of their fans will be there when they move to ESPN. In a challenging economy, if it gets worse, that theory is going to be put to the test. But you know what? He's not wrong. For all of the moaning and all of the bitching about having to spend $30 a month to watch these PLEs, the vast majority of those people will end up paying the money. Like I've said this before, and in light of this news, I think it's actually truer now more than ever. You know, Nick Khan is Vince McMahon's greatest signing after Hulk Hogan. Nick Khan has made this company more money than Hogan ever did, but without Hogan as the face of their national expansion, they may not even be in a position to be making these types of deals. So I can't rank him above Hulk. But when it comes to talent, when it comes to the executive end, Nick Khan is his greatest acquisition. I don't think this deal happens without his relationships and his contacts at ESPN. The last set of television rights negotiations, he led the charge on those too. All these billion-dollar deals, he led the charge on those. If you're a WWE shareholder, you're loving this. As a viewer, there's a lot that I dislike about the current WWE product and how overly corporate it has gotten. But I accept that it's the way of the world now. You know, you got to get that money before the well dries up. All these media rights deals, these astronomical fees that are being paid to WWE and NASCAR and MLB and NBA and NFL and all these different organizations. Like, that money is not always going to be there. It's not always going to be that way, right? You got to get it while the going is hot. And as a publicly traded company, they have people to answer to. And those people, more so than even the fans themselves, will always come first. You know, does WWE give a shit that you have to pay for 3 or 4 different services now if you want to watch all of their content? No. They don't give a fuck. Because as Nick Khan said, he knows that you're going to pay for it regardless. I mean, look at their ticket prices. Their ticket prices have increased astronomically. They have priced a lot of people out, a lot of families out of attending WWE events, or maybe they still go, but they don't go to as many as they used to, or they sit in the cheap seats now instead of sitting closer to the ring. I mean, I say cheap seats. I'm not sure those even exist anymore at these shows. You know, over time, I think their audience is going to change. I think the audience already has. You know, they don't care so much about the matches as much as they do the moments, right? It's what they've been conditioned to expect. They wait for the moments so that they can react. Maybe they get their face on TV with their phony reaction. But as you price certain people out, it's inevitable that the makeup of their audience is going to change to some extent. The demographics of their audience are going to change to some extent. What'll be very interesting is, you know, that first turn down in business, whenever it comes, and it is going to happen. I mean, it may take years, but it will happen. When it does, how loyal are those new fans going to be? Right? Are they going to be as loyal as the diehards right now? Are they going to stick with WWE the way those other fans would? The ones that they priced out? That's an interesting question that I don't know the answer to. And another question I don't know the answer to is, when we see the day that comes where that business turn down happens, who's going to be the first scapegoat? Right? Is it going to be Triple H? He sure has positioned himself as the face of this brand, but that's a whole other question. But whether, you know, you can afford to go to their events is really of no concern to them because those tickets are still selling. They just put tickets on sale for Survivor Series at Petco Park, and already they moved 25,000 seats. This event is not until the end of November. It's after Thanksgiving. The building fits 47,000 people. They've already sold over 25,000 tickets. And they may well come close to that 47,000 before all is said and done. So you're looking at even more stadium shows in the future. Stadiums for Survivor Series is going to become the norm, just like they have for SummerSlam. So long as the demand is there and people are willing to pay those prices, they have no incentive to lower them. Why would they? So if you don't like this ESPN deal, WWE has 1.6 billion reasons not to care, because I've gotten those tweets too this week. Well, I guess I'm done with WWE. No more WWE for me. I'll stick to the news sites and podcasts for my fill. Well, see ya. For every fan that sticks to their guns and leaves, they'll just replace them with 5 more. They get to be in bed with Disney and ESPN now. It's always been about status with this company. That was always the story with Vince McMahon. He was always upset that there were no car companies who wanted to advertise with them and sponsor their shows. Instead of seeing Audi commercials during Raw or hearing John Cena's voice on those Honda commercials, it would be Burger King and Snickers. Those were the types of ads that you would see on their shows over and over and over again. Only in recent years has that really changed, right? They're a lot more accepted now in the mainstream. And they're pretty much covered in every realm of media, right? It's not like they have only cable shows, right? I mean, they have the linear aspect of the deal on lock. They have NXT on the CW network, and they have SmackDown on USA Network, right? So they have the basic cable aspect covered, and they've got the streaming aspect covered. They've got their hand in everything instead of just limiting themselves to one thing, which is smart. They've got guaranteed money coming in now more than ever before. Even if you think the product is boring, it doesn't matter. They're getting paid either way. You might say, well, they're getting paid, but the shows are very bland. Okay, sure, yeah. They're getting paid for mediocrity, but they're getting paid. But if you have ESPN already and you have free access to the streaming service after it launches, the WWE shows, they're not going to cost you a thing. So a lot of fans are actually going to save money on this deal if they ditch Peacock. Unless you want to watch the NXT PLEs wherever they land, then you may not be so lucky. And international fans don't have to worry because nothing is changing for them. Speaking of big events, I should mention this here. The chairman of the General Entertainment Authority in Saudi Arabia, Turki Al-Sheikh, tweeted this week that he just signed a deal to bring a giant entertainment event to Saudi Arabia in 2027. A big surprise, he says, to be announced soon. Now, he did not say WrestleMania, but when someone replied and asked if it was WrestleMania, he responded with an upside-down smiley face and a smiley with shades on. They're getting WrestleMania before London, aren't they? Oh, that's going to make a lot of people mad. That's going to make a lot of people in the UK very angry. But you know what? What they're willing to pay for it is far more than what the UK or anybody else is. It'll be more money than anybody has ever paid for WrestleMania in the history of WrestleMania. Dave Meltzer says he knows people in the country who believe that it is WrestleMania and that they are pushing for The Rock to headline the show. He also says there's been talk of having 2 WrestleManias in 1 year. So maybe they don't get WrestleMania proper. Maybe we have WrestleMania here, and then a few months later they get the greatest WrestleMania. Just like they got the greatest Royal Rumble. Or maybe they get Super WrestleMania. It's a great game, by the way. I had it on my Super Nintendo. 2 WrestleManias in 1 year is honestly the perfect way to highlight what TKO is all about. More than anything I could ever put into words. It is all just so ridiculous.